The galaxy had seen wars before, but now fear came not from open battle, but from something more silent. The Galactic Council had ordered warship audits. Every empire had to line up its fleets, from the smallest patrol craft to the largest battleships. Inspectors from neutral worlds boarded the vessels, scanned their cores, checked their weapon systems, and compared every reading against official records. It was meant to bring order. No hidden fleets. No secret weapons. No chance for another sudden war. The process was long, harsh, and filled with tension, yet no one dared resist. To resist meant suspicion, and suspicion could mean sanctions, or worse, united fleets sent to force compliance. All across the Council space, giant docks overflowed with ships waiting their turn. Commanders stood stiffly as auditors walked through their bridges. Engineers opened sealed compartments. Even admirals had to hand over their codes. Every empire hated it, but every empire also knew the danger if someone cheated. In this heavy silence, stories spread among the crews. Stories of ships failing the audits. Of weapons found that were banned centuries ago. Of admirals stripped of command when their vessels carried too many guns. Some fleets trembled as rumors claimed entire squadrons had been disarmed on the spot. No one could hide from the Council's eye. At least, that was what everyone believed. Among the countless ships waiting inspection, one fleet was missing something. The humans, newcomers to the Council, had lined up their destroyers, their cruisers, and even a dreadnought. All of them passed with little fuss. The inspectors noted that the human ships were simple, rugged, and sometimes old in design, but also built with a kind of stubborn strength. There was nothing unusual. Nothing illegal. Nothing hidden. The inspectors signed off on the forms and moved on. But in the quiet corners of the docks, some alien officers whispered. The humans had one ship not listed on any schedule. A supercarrier. No one had seen it arrive for inspection. No one had seen it dock. The logs showed nothing. And yet there were whispers, carried by freighter captains and traders, of a ship so vast it dwarfed even the oldest Council flagships. A ship bristling with weapons that had never been catalogued. A ship that had never been shown in battle, but always rumored to exist. The aliens asked questions, but the answers they received were strange. Some humans claimed the supercarrier was just a myth. Others laughed and said Earth had no need for such a ship. Still others said it had been retired, scrapped, or broken into parts years ago. The stories clashed, and that made the mystery worse. The Council wanted proof, but proof was difficult. Human records were locked behind firewalls the inspectors could not break. The Earth diplomats smiled politely, gave official reports, and always denied any missing vessel. To the Council, this looked like arrogance. To the aliens watching from the shadows, it looked like danger. Because if the humans were hiding one warship, who could say they were not hiding more? The tension grew thicker each passing day. Fleets from rival empires began watching human space more closely. Scouts lingered at the borders. Spies hunted for signs. Yet there was nothing clear, only shadows and whispers. The Council debated whether to demand another round of inspections, one aimed only at Earth. But some feared what that might uncover. Others feared what the humans might do if pressed too hard. Meanwhile, on Earth, the people pretended life was normal. Cities glowed at night. Ships carried goods and passengers as if nothing was wrong. The human media reported proudly that their fleets had passed the audits without trouble. To the common citizen, it looked like peace. But in the deep silence of space, away from cameras and away from the Council, something moved. A massive hull, black as night, drifted slowly between stars. Its surface was lined with armor plates thicker than any council standard. Its hangars held wings of fighters no alien eye had ever seen. Its reactors hummed with power far beyond the limits inspectors were allowed to approve. It was the missing ship. The human supercarrier had never gone to the docks. It had never been scanned. It had slipped past the net of inspections while the galaxy watched somewhere else. It traveled silently, cloaked by technologies the Council believed impossible for such a large vessel. Inside, thousands of crew trained in silence. Marines sharpened their skills in endless drills. Pilots studied battle plans. Officers read encrypted orders sealed by Earth's highest command. Yet even they did not know the full mission. The ship waited, hidden, patient. The galaxy believed the audits would keep them safe. They believed every empire was exposed, every weapon counted, every fleet made equal. But the humans had already broken that balance. And in the stillness of space, the hidden carrier's commander stood on the bridge, staring at the stars. He spoke quietly to his second officer, words that would never reach the Council's ears. They think they see everything. But they don't see us. They will never be ready when the time comes. And so the audits continued. Fleets stood in line. Inspectors checked boxes and filed reports. The Council sighed in relief that order was maintained. Yet somewhere beyond their vision, a sleeping giant drifted, waiting for the signal that would change everything. The galaxy was restless after the audits ended. Fleets returned to their home ports, their crews relieved that nothing more had been taken from them. The Council announced proudly that no empire had cheated, that no hidden fleets had been found, and that peace was secure. To the public across thousands of worlds, it seemed like stability had returned. But in the shadows of deep space, rumors grew stronger. The humans had not shown all their ships. The missing supercarrier became the center of every whisper, every late-night conversation between alien captains who trusted no one. For most empires, a supercarrier was a symbol of pride and raw strength. It carried entire wings of fighters, ground assault divisions, and supplies to wage war far from home. To lose track of one was unthinkable. The Council demanded answers, but Earth always smiled and denied. Their diplomats were calm, their officers polite, their reports clean. And yet nothing could erase the strange absence. One ship was gone. One ship that should have stood in line with the rest had simply vanished. Alien intelligence agencies sent their best trackers. Drones scanned trade lanes, looking for unusual signatures. Patrol fleets doubled near human borders. Even civilian traders began to carry stories, saying they had seen a vast shadow slip past their sensors, larger than any freighter but silent as the void. These stories were dismissed in public, yet privately, the Council took them very seriously. Some suggested the humans had dismantled the ship, hiding its parts across smaller vessels. Others said it had been destroyed in a failed experiment. But a few, the ones who feared the most, believed the humans had cloaked it. They argued that no empire could hide such a massive hull, that no stealth technology worked on that scale. Yet the humans were different. Death worlders. Survivors. Builders of things the rest of the galaxy called impossible. Inside the supercarrier, life moved with quiet discipline. The crew lived in long corridors filled with humming power lines and sealed doors. Every day, they drilled. The pilots practiced launch sequences again and again, even when they did not know what their mission would be. The Marines trained in zero-gravity combat, preparing for boardings and assaults that had not yet been ordered. Engineers tested engines, checked reactors, and repaired parts that did not even show damage, always ready, always alert. They had no contact with family. No news from Earth. Their world was the ship, and the ship was all they were allowed to know. The commander, Admiral Kalin, kept his silence. His officers asked questions but he gave no answers. Orders from Earth were locked in encrypted files, sealed until the right moment. To the crew, it was strange and unsettling. Why hide them in the dark? Why cut them from the rest of the fleet? Yet none dared break discipline. They trusted their leaders, even as unease spread in the lower decks. Far away, the council grew more suspicious. A group of alien admirals gathered in a secret meeting, their voices sharp with worry. One said the humans were reckless, hiding dangerous weapons while pretending to be peaceful. Another said perhaps Earth wanted to test the council's resolve, to see if they would act. But one admiral, older and wiser, warned that pushing the humans might awaken something far worse. He reminded them that humans came from a death world, a place where life fought for survival every day. A species that grew strong in such a world would not follow rules the same way others did. Ships began to disappear. Small scout vessels that drifted too close to human space simply never returned. Their distress calls were faint, sometimes only a single word, sometimes only static. Officially, the council called them accidents, navigation failures, or pirate attacks. But the truth whispered behind closed doors was darker. Those scouts had seen something they were not meant to see. Something huge, something hidden in the dark between stars. The supercarrier waited. Its cloak held firm, bending signals and confusing sensors, so that it looked like empty space to anyone searching. The crew called it the Ghost Shield. The galaxy believed such a thing was science fiction, but the humans had made it real. Still, even the Ghost Shield was not perfect. Once, a wandering freighter strayed too close and its captain glimpsed the edge of the giant hull, a shadow darker than space itself. His logs later showed readings of unnatural gravity shifts, as if a planet had briefly passed nearby. He swore what he saw was real, but when he tried to deliver the data to the council, his ship exploded before docking. No one could prove who had destroyed it, but everyone guessed. Inside the council chambers, arguments raged. Some demanded warships be sent to force the humans into open compliance. Others argued that this would only bring blood. In the end, they chose silence. Better to watch and wait, they said, than to strike at something they did not understand. The humans remained quiet. Their fleets acted normal. Their diplomats spoke of peace and trade. Their colonies kept working. To any outsider, Earth was just another young empire trying to survive among giants. But beneath that mask, the hidden carrier drifted, unseen and unchallenged. Its silence was not weakness. It was patience. Admiral Kalin stood at the main viewport one night, the stars stretched out in endless black. He thought of the council, of the audits, of the whispers spreading across the galaxy. Then he whispered words only the crew nearby could hear. They think we hide because we fear them. They are wrong. We hide because we wait. And when the time comes, no one will be ready. The hidden supercarrier sailed on, a shadow among stars, a secret that threatened to break the fragile peace the council worked so hard to protect. The galaxy believed it had caught every weapon, every fleet, every danger. But the truth was drifting silently, right in front of them, waiting for the order that would change everything. The council thought the worst was behind them. The audits were complete, the reports filed, and the galaxy seemed calm. Fleets were back in their ports, and leaders spoke of trade, treaties, and new colonies. But peace in the galaxy was never more than a thin layer of glass. Beneath it, cracks were spreading. Whispers came first, carried by traders who moved through the border worlds. They spoke of a rising empire, one that was building weapons too powerful for anyone else to match. Ships seen on distant patrols bore strange new engines and guns that glowed with energy no inspector had ever measured. The stories spread quickly, and with them came fear. The council dismissed these rumors at first. They said no empire would dare break the laws after the strict audits. But more reports arrived, each harder to ignore. In one sector, a fleet of alien ships had been sighted carrying weapons large enough to tear a continent apart. In another, miners found fragments of strange machinery drifting through space, parts of engines that no one could explain. Soon the whispers formed a single name: the Draken Empire. The Draken were known as aggressive, but not foolish. They had been quiet during the audits, showing their fleets, following every rule. Now, however, it seemed they had hidden something far greater. Intelligence agents said the Draken were building a new weapon, a planet killer. It would not just burn cities or crack defenses. It would turn whole worlds into ash. The council gathered in fear. They argued and shouted, but no one had a clear answer. If the Draken truly had such power, the fragile balance of peace would shatter. The humans sat quietly in the chambers. Their diplomats did not shout. They did not argue. They listened. When questions came to them, they gave no clear answers. They spoke of patience and careful action, but they never said what Earth would do if the rumors proved true. To the other empires, this silence was unsettling. Everyone knew the humans were hiding something. Everyone remembered the missing supercarrier. And everyone began to wonder if the humans had kept it hidden for this very reason. Far from the council halls, the hidden carrier floated in darkness. Its crew had begun to sense the truth. The drills became more intense. Training no longer felt like practice but like preparation for real battle. Officers shared small fragments of intercepted messages. The Draken were moving fleets in secret. Their engineers had created weapons that could burn oceans dry. The carrier's marines whispered among themselves. If the Draken used their new weapon, no planet would be safe. Not even Earth. The council debated for weeks but made no decision. Some leaders wanted to send inspectors back to the Draken, but others argued it was too dangerous. To confront them might trigger war. To ignore them might give them time to finish their weapon. And while the council wasted time in endless talks, the Draken acted. A colony world on the far edge of council space stopped sending signals. Rescue ships were dispatched, but what they found turned fear into panic. The planet was dead. Not just burned, not just bombed. Dead. Its oceans had boiled into steam. Its cities were nothing but glass and ash. The air itself carried poison. No survivors were found. On the surface, carved into the stone by weapons of impossible power, was a message in the Draken tongue. It said only one word: warning. The news spread faster than any fleet. Worlds panicked. Colonies begged for protection. The council was thrown into chaos. Some wanted to surrender to the Draken before they struck again. Others demanded immediate war. But no one agreed, and while they argued, fear grew. The people knew their leaders were too slow. The people knew their protectors were failing. And yet, somewhere out there, a shadow was moving. The humans did not wait for debate. Their supercarrier had already shifted from its hidden position. Silent engines carried it closer to Draken space. The crew was no longer confused. They knew now why they had been hidden, why they had been cut off from the galaxy. They were not a ship of peace. They were a blade waiting in the dark, ready for the moment when the galaxy's courage failed. Alien captains began to notice strange signs. Patrol fleets searching for the Draken sometimes reported seeing a massive energy signature that disappeared before they could trace it. Scouts caught a glimpse of fighters that did not match any known design. But every time they tried to report, their messages vanished, or their ships never came back. The whispers spread again, but this time they carried new fear. The humans were not only hiding something, they were moving it. The Council demanded answers, but Earth gave none. Their diplomats remained calm, repeating the same empty words about peace and order. Yet their silence only deepened suspicion. Some empires feared the humans were planning to use their supercarrier not against the Draken, but against everyone. Others prayed the humans were preparing to fight when no one else dared. The truth was hidden behind the walls of the great ship, where Admiral Kalen read his final sealed orders. The galaxy trembled as the Draken sharpened their blade. The council froze in debate. And the humans, quiet and waiting, made their move in shadows. The war was coming, and soon the hidden carrier would no longer be a secret. The Draken's destruction of the colony world spread across the galaxy like fire. Every broadcast replayed the same haunting images: oceans turned into steam, cities burned to glass, skies choked with poison. Entire populations on other planets cried out in fear, begging for protection from their leaders. But the council was slow, as always. They argued in endless meetings, each empire blaming another, each one too afraid to act first. Some wanted sanctions. Others wanted talks. None wanted to send fleets against the Draken. It was easier to speak of peace than to risk their own ships. But the humans did not wait. The hidden carrier had been silent long enough. Orders were finally unlocked by Admiral Kalen's hand, orders sealed by Earth's highest command. The words were simple: move, observe, prepare to strike if the Draken attack again. The crew felt a shiver run through the decks as the engines powered to full for the first time. The ghost shield hummed louder, bending sensors and hiding their path. The carrier left its silent position and began to drift closer to the storm. Everywhere in its halls, the crew could feel the change. Pilots prepared their fighters, checking weapons that had never been tested in battle. Marines drilled until their muscles burned, repeating boarding maneuvers in both gravity and weightless halls. Engineers worked without sleep, tuning reactors that could power a city for 100 years. No one asked questions anymore. They knew what was coming. The galaxy might pretend to hold peace, but war was already awake. The carrier's movement did not go unnoticed. Patrols from nearby systems caught strange readings, massive energy spikes that vanished as quickly as they appeared. A scout ship swore it saw a silhouette the size of a mountain drifting against the stars, but its captain was dismissed as mad. Traders claimed their cargo scanners picked up interference strong enough to fry circuits. These stories spread quickly, fueling new rumors. Something vast was moving, something too large to be explained away. And most believed only one species would dare hide such a ship. Back in the council chambers, suspicion grew sharper. Alien ambassadors demanded answers from Earth. Why were human ships seen near Draken borders? Why were strange energy signatures traced back to sectors close to their colonies? But the human diplomats only smiled, calm and polite, and gave no explanation. They spoke of trade routes, of routine patrols, of navigational errors. They gave nothing real, and the council grew more unsettled. The silence of the humans was worse than lies. Meanwhile, deep in the void, the carrier continued its silent journey. Admiral Kalin stood on the bridge as stars stretched around them, his officers waiting for his command. He spoke little, but his presence was enough. The crew trusted him, even as fear ran through them. For some, it was not the Draken they feared, but the power of their own ship. They had seen the weapon bays, the endless fighter wings, the massive cannons lined along the hull. They knew what it meant. No other empire had anything like it. If unleashed, this ship could shatter whole fleets. The Draken were not blind. Their scouts too had noticed unusual disturbances, their spies reporting whispers of a hidden human ship. The Draken commanders laughed at first. To them, humans were still new, still young, still weak compared to ancient empires. But doubt crept in as more reports came. They began to deploy more ships along their borders, massive war fleets bristling with their new weapons. The galaxy was holding its breath. One wrong move would ignite it all. Inside the carrier, the crew lived between fear and anticipation. Nights were filled with restless sleep, days with endless drills. The youngest officers whispered to each other about the coming fight, while veterans stayed silent, knowing war never followed plans. The pilots polished their helmets, marking symbols on them for luck. The Marines sharpened knives they might never use. In the mess halls, the talk always came back to the same question: would the council fight, or would it fall to the Draken's terror? Admiral Kalin gave no speeches, only orders. Yet one night, he stood before the assembled officers and told them the truth in plain words. The council would not move fast enough. The Draken had already killed a world, and they would kill again. Humanity could not wait. The carrier's purpose was clear now. It was not only a shield for Earth. It was a sword for the galaxy. Beyond the bridge windows, the Draken fleets gathered like storms on the horizon. The supercarrier drifted closer, unseen, its reactors humming with restrained power. The galaxy thought the humans were quiet. They thought the audits had stripped every empire of secrets. But in the dark, the hidden carrier was already moving toward the fire, and soon its silence would break. The galaxy had hoped the Draken would stop after destroying one world, but hope was always fragile. Weeks later, another signal went dark. This time it was not a far colony but a thriving trade hub with millions of citizens. When rescue fleets arrived, they found the same nightmare waiting for them. The planet was blackened, its oceans gone, its cities melted into lifeless stone. Once again, no survivors. Once again, the Draken left a message. It said only 2 words. Submit now. Panic tore through the council. Entire star systems begged for protection. Colonies demanded evacuation. Civilian ships crowded spaceports, trying to flee anywhere safe. Yet the council was paralyzed. They argued in long meetings, each empire afraid to commit its fleets. Some said the Draken were bluffing and only destroying weak targets. Others feared the next strike could be against their own home world. Words filled the chambers but no action followed. The galaxy was drowning in fear, and the leaders only argued. But the humans were not silent anymore. The hidden carrier reached its waiting point at the edge of Draken space. The ghost shield shimmered faintly, masking the giant hull as the crew prepared. Every pilot strapped into fighters. Every marine loaded weapons. Every deck hummed with readiness. They knew their orders. The time to wait was over. Admiral Kalin stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the stars where the Draken fleets gathered. He read the final order sent from Earth, a message that unlocked the carrier's true purpose. It was not just to observe, not just to prepare. It was to strike when the Draken crossed the line again. They had crossed it twice already. Now there was no doubt. Humanity would act. The Council still had no decision when the first broadcasts arrived. Across every world, screens flickered with a sudden image. A shadow broke from the void, vast and terrifying. The human supercarrier had dropped its cloak. For the first time, the galaxy saw it with their own eyes. A ship larger than any flagship in history, its armored hull glowing with the light of countless weapon bays. Fighter wings launched in perfect formation, spreading out like swarms of steel. Its engines burned with a power no one had ever measured. The galaxy froze in shock. Civilian crowds stared at their screens in silence. Alien admirals cursed in disbelief. Council leaders shouted, demanding answers, demanding to know how such a ship had escaped every audit. But it was too late. The secret was revealed. Humanity's supercarrier was real, and it was awake. The Draken reacted with fury. Their fleets scrambled, rushing to meet the sudden threat. They launched ships armed with their new planet-killer weapons, confident that even this giant could not withstand their fire. But when the first wave of missiles struck, the galaxy watched in disbelief as the carrier's shields flared bright and held firm. The humans had built defenses no one thought possible. The weapons meant to burn planets failed against the steel giant. From the carrier's decks, retaliation began. Batteries of cannons lit up, cutting through Draken cruisers like knives through paper. Squadrons of fighters tore into enemy formations, their weapons precise, their tactics brutal. Marines launched boarding pods, slamming into Draken ships and clearing them deck by deck. The galaxy was no longer watching rumors. They were watching a storm of fire. Across Council space, fear turned to awe. Worlds that had begged for protection cheered as they saw the Draken fleet break apart under human fire. For the first time since the attacks began, the galaxy saw resistance. They saw someone stand against the terror. But with that hope came a new fear. If humans could build such a ship in secret, if they could unleash this kind of destruction so easily, what else were they hiding? On the bridge of the carrier, Admiral Kalen gave calm, steady orders. His crew worked like a single machine, their training showing in every move. He felt the weight of the moment but showed no hesitation. He knew what was at stake. If the Draken were not stopped here, they would burn world after world until nothing was left. The battle raged for hours. The Draken threw fleets at the carrier, wave after wave, but none could break its defenses. The Council finally sent ships to assist, but by the time they arrived, the humans had already shattered the enemy lines. Wreckage drifted across the void, the remains of ships once thought invincible. The Draken retreated, their arrogance broken. The galaxy had its revelation. The humans had not only hidden their greatest weapon but had unleashed it when no one else dared. The supercarrier was not just a ship. It was a message written in fire and steel. The Council could no longer pretend they controlled the balance of power. That balance now belonged to Earth. And as the smoke of battle cleared, the carrier drifted forward, its shadow falling over the stars. The galaxy watched in silence, uncertain whether they had just been saved by the humans or conquered by them. The Draken had been driven back, but the war was not over. The galaxy trembled as news of the human carrier spread. Every world now knew of the steel giant that had hidden in the dark and then struck with the force of a storm. To some, it was salvation. To others, it was a threat greater than the Draken themselves. The Council met again, their chambers filled with shouts and fear. Some demanded that Earth be praised as a protector. Others warned that humanity had broken the laws of the audits, that their secrets proved they could not be trusted. The council argued as always, but the war outside did not wait for them. The Draken gathered the largest fleet in their history. Dozens of capital ships, hundreds of cruisers, and swarms of fighters launched together. They knew the supercarrier was their greatest obstacle, the blade that had cut their pride to pieces. If they could destroy it, the galaxy would bow in fear once more. Their commanders swore they would not fail again. They readied every planet-killer weapon they had built, loading them for one purpose only, to shatter the human giant. Admiral Kalen and his crew knew what was coming. Scouts had already reported the massive fleet moving into position. The supercarrier stood ready at the edge of the battlefield, its shields recharged, its hangars full of fighters. The crew felt the weight of silence before the storm. In the barracks, Marines checked their gear with steady hands. Pilots sat in their cockpits, staring at the glow of their displays. Engineers stood by the reactors, prepared for anything. No one spoke of fear, though it lived inside them. They spoke only of duty. When the Draken came, they came like a wave. The void filled with their ships, blotting out stars with their numbers. Their weapons glowed, ready to fire. The council fleets that had followed the humans froze at the sight, their commanders unsure whether to fight or flee. It was the human supercarrier that moved first. Its engines flared, and with calm precision it advanced into the heart of the storm. The Draken unleashed their fury. Energy blasts hammered the carrier's shields. Missiles streaked across space, detonating in fire bright enough to blind sensors. The first planet-killer cannon roared, its beam tearing through the void straight into the human ship. For a moment the galaxy held its breath, expecting to see the carrier broken apart. But when the light cleared, the supercarrier still stood. Its shields had bent, its armor scorched, but it endured. The humans had built it to take the fire of gods. The response came at once. Batteries along the carrier's hull lit the darkness, each blast tearing through enemy cruisers. Fighters swarmed out like steel hawks, striking Draken formations with perfect coordination. Boarding pods launched again, Marines cutting their way onto enemy bridges and silencing them one by one. The carrier fought like a living thing, patient, relentless, unstoppable. The council fleets, emboldened by what they saw, finally joined. For the first time, the galaxy fought as one. But the Draken did not retreat easily. They poured ship after ship into the fire, sacrificing entire squadrons to break the human shield. Their commanders screamed for victory, but fear began to creep into their lines. The planet killers that had turned worlds into ash could not bring down this single ship. Each failed strike broke their pride further. And then came the moment that sealed their fate. The carrier's main weapon, a cannon hidden deep within its core, powered up. No one outside the crew had ever seen it before. Energy built until the ship itself shook, and then the weapon fired. A beam brighter than a sun cut through the Draken's flagship, splitting it apart in a single strike. The explosion echoed across the void, and with it the morale of the Draken fleet collapsed. Their ships faltered, their formations broke, and soon they began to flee. The galaxy watched as the unstoppable empire turned its back in defeat. When the battle was over, silence returned to the stars. The wrecks of hundreds of ships drifted through the void, glowing with dying fire. The human carrier stood alone among them, scarred but unbroken. Its crew cheered, not with joy, but with grim relief. They knew they had not only won a battle, but had decided the future of the galaxy. Back in the council chambers, No one dared raise their voice now. They had seen the truth. The audits had failed. Their laws had failed. It was not the council that had saved the galaxy. It was the humans. And yet that truth carried fear. If one hidden ship could change everything, how many more waited in the dark? How much power had Earth been hiding while pretending to be small? Admiral Kalen gave no answer to those questions. From the bridge of the carrier, he looked at the stars with calm eyes. His words were quiet, but the crew around him heard them clearly. The Draken thought they could rule with terror. The Council thought they could rule with rules. But now they both know the same thing. Humanity decides its own judgment. The supercarrier drifted forward, its shadow falling across the wreckage of the fallen fleet. The galaxy watched, uncertain if they had just been saved by the humans or if they had only seen the beginning of a new rule.